they'll never end. Sun takes its heels to taunt you, but after sunlit days, one thing stays the same: rises the moon.
89.3 WGSU, Geneseo's Voice of the Valley presents
Art After Dark with Lia and Moon, a show where two moon lovers talk about art and everything that comes with it.
the good and the bad,
The happy and the sad.
the beautiful and the ugly. Welcome back, everyone, and this is our second episode.
Yay!
This is so exciting. So, during our last episode, we asked you to come up with questions and address them, ask them via this comment section on our Instagram post, but nobody did that. So my roommate, boo, please do so. We can be your not Wikipedia, we can be your JSTOR source.
Yes, JSTOR. We love JSTOR.
So my roommate asked me in person, how did we come up with this idea? Moon, do you want to answer?
I mean, you're the one who posted the thingy on the email. I mean, I don't know how you came up with it, but when we were talking to each other when we first met to talk about it, we were just saying we just want to talk about art and all of the things that come with art. And I don't ever have a place to talk about art outside of my art history classes because none of my friends are as interested in it or can converse with me. They'll listen, but there's nobody to like go back and forth with me. So being able to do this, especially with Lia, is really fun.
Aww. Yeah, the way I came up with it, I don't remember specifically. I was just part of a radio show in my high school years, and then I moved abroad, and I didn't have a radio station because I didn't speak Dutch, so all the radio stations in the Netherlands were in Dutch.
Right.
And then I was part of a study association as part of my art history department and art, culture, and media studies. So I wanted to do it because I thought, okay, I have a lot of individuals who are like-minded and who are just like me, just like you, who would like to talk about art. So I made this huge plan and presented it to the board of the association because we found a room within the university that had a microphone and a computer, basically something like this one, but not a radio station.
Interesting.
So we wanted to do it, but I was too busy in spring. And now I came here and I saw this WGSU fancy radio, logo, and I attended the first meeting and I was like, let's get started, because if I don't do it now. And then I thought, what can I talk about? What do I know best? I mean, best is a very strong statement,
right?
But still, what am I most passionate about?
Yeah.
Did your friends say anything? Did they listen to this, to our first episode?
Some of them, listened in for a little bit, but all of my friends are busy people just like me.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't even get to listen to the episode live.
I listened to bits of it.
Did
parts
you?
Of it,
I think I listened to the first part, but funnily enough, it premiered when WGSU was having a staff party, so I was talking to all the staff instead of listening.
Oh yeah, I didn't come to that. Yeah. I was busy. How did that go?
It was so fun. We had pizza and we talked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About art?
I mean, a little. We just talked about, everything, basically. Everybody just nerded out, is the gist of it. But, yeah, my friends were like, wow, that was really cool. I'm glad that I, got to listen to it. It's so cool that you're doing this. But nothing, super, insightful or, they're just supportive, which I appreciate.
Yeah, and my grandma said something about this. So she was here in the United States, so she speaks a little bit of English, but she forgot some of it. But she's really good. Without any practice, she's really good. So she listened to the episode, and she said that the parts she understood were the ones where we addressed really thoughtful topics and questions. So we need to keep going, and she'll be our main fan supporter.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so sweet. Yeah.
Before we dive into our actual episode, let's share our art mood for today. It's a beautiful, beautiful Wednesday. And I think my art mood for today is Violin and Guitar, a painting by Juan Gris, a 1913 painting. We will include all the paintings and artworks and art pieces in our Instagram post.
Yeah.
In a slide show mode, right?
We didn't do it for last episode, so I think we're going to put all the ones from last episode and this episode in it this time.
But I think our last episode was more abstract and we kind of introduced each other, so that's why we didn't really include it.
You're not going to be able to see a piece, the picture of the one that I said last episode, because there is not one online.
Exactly. But we will do that. So my artwork, I found it on an art app that I've been having for a while. It's called Daily Art, and basically every day you get a new artwork. So this was the artwork I got for today. It's basically a technical composition of a violin and a guitar that combines Cubist principles, and I like it because it combines science and art, music and sound, and also I like this combination between the guitar and the violin, two different instruments, but also beautifully combined. So yeah, this is my art mood.
I love that so much, and I think it's quite fitting for what we're talking about today, because it's like a combination of everything. Did we even say what this episode is?
I don't think so. I think we said this. We said this last time, but let's say it again.
This episode is defining or not defining art. So I think it's very fitting to have this combination of forms. And my art mood for the day are the pieces that we're going to be talking about a little bit later, which is one that's called The Urinal, or at least that's how I call it. And then it's another Banksy piece. It's Girl with the Balloon. And I'm pretty sure we talked about Banksy a little last time. I don't remember.
I think we might have mentioned him when speaking about socio-political art.
Yeah.
And the importance of art.
Yeah.
But I don't remember.
I don't either. That's okay. But yeah, another Banksy piece. One that I quite enjoy, and it's pretty famous, so yeah.
You should know it. If not by name, then by image.
Look, yeah.
By look.
Yeah.
So, okay. Historically, art has been defined in three different ways: art as representation, art as form, and art as expression. Speaking about art as representation, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's when art represents, depicts, or imitates real life. And as an example, can be the sunset. So the actual sunset is beautiful, right? Gorgeous, especially from the gazebo.
Mm-hmm.
But then the painting of a sunset, which is the representation or the imitation of a real-life sunset, is more beautiful according to artists. And yeah, I don't know, what gets you the experience of a real sunset? Is it the actual sunset? Is it a picture of a sunset? Or is it a painting or a sculpture? You can't sculpt a sunset, or can you?
You totally can.
You totally can,
totally
yeah.
can if you want to.
You can, Moon.
Now that makes me want to sculpt the sunset. I don't think anything can beat the real deal, because that's like the emotions that you are feeling when you watch the sunset, so it's very unique to yourself. But I do think that a photograph is not as impactful as a painting of a sunset, unless that photograph has specific meaning to you, if that makes sense. So like, for example, if I were to paint a sunset, it wouldn't be just like realism. It would depict the emotion that I'm feeling at the time, and whether that be melancholy or be very joyful, like it's I don't know, I just feel like painting it is so much different than a photograph. But again, the real deal, you can't beat the real deal.
You know, I agree with you, but I feel like it depends on the photograph as well, because a photograph can be closer to the real representation of a sunset than a painting. Because as you said, the painting depicts the mood that the sunset makes you feel, or the feeling or the impression.
Yeah.
While a photograph can be, but depends on the camera, because if you take a picture from your phone, then It
I
sucks.
mean, it depends on the phone. Personally, I have a Google Pixel, and they have very, very good cameras.
I see. No, every time I want to take a picture of the moon, for example,
Oh, yeah.
I just get annoyed and I'd rather look at it and remember it.
Yeah.
And I'm always thinking that if I could paint, I would.
You totally can.
I can, but it's not going to be the same, you know? So,
Well, that's why you have to keep trying. You have trial and error. Put in that dedication, that effort.
I'll write a poem.
Yeah, yeah. That's still art. So
And it still can count as representation because it
Yeah.
can represent something. It can imitate, but
Yeah.
in words. So it's a different medium. It's
Yeah.
a different medium. Then talking about art as form, according to Clive Bell, an art historian and a philosopher, art has significant form. So he argues that art is about its form and not about its content. Something that, of course, will be counter-argued by artists like Marcel Duchamp with his urinal. So talking about the sunset, the actual sunset, according to Clive Bell, has no significant form. So it has no form, it's just the sunset. But then the artist can capture its form via line, shape, color, texture. So the painted sunset has significant form. That's why it's more beautiful and more impactful than the real sunset.
that's an interesting take that
Yeah.
I disagree with
Okay,
completely.
go on, please.
Like as I said before, you can't recreate. Well, I mean, you can try, but I don't think you're ever going to be able to fully recreate the emotion that you feel during a sunset. Especially, it depends, like, even in the context. If you're alone, if you're with people, like, each time you watch a sunset, you're feeling something different because your day has been different, your life has been different.
The sunset is different.
The sunset is different. How it's being depicted, can you even see it, or is it behind clouds? It's like, the sun is an object. Like, it's in space. We revolve around it. Like, it's not real. Like, I don't understand how he can say there's no significant form. It is the form. Like,
It is the form, exactly. Well, I can see some of his points when it comes to, again, a painting. Then there's line, there's shape, there's color, there's texture. But then I think his definition is very, very limiting.
yeah.
And for me, art is, I would say, about the content first and then about the form.
I agree.
But in art history classes, you do have to make some formal analysis before diving into the content, right? To not be
Yeah.
biased. Do you also
Yeah.
do this?
Yeah, right now I'm in 3 art history classes, but my level 100 ones are definitely on the more like basic level because, you know, they're lower classes, but because they're on the more basic level, we focus more on the form than the content, which I find very interesting because in my higher level classes, you focus more on the content than you do the form.
Yeah, same with my classes, I think. I remember, so the first year of university, we had to go to a museum to pick a painting, an artwork. Okay, I'm using the word painting because that was the art form we worked with in the beginning. So we had to like sketch it and draw it and just pay attention at the form. We weren't even supposed to look at the title. We were just supposed to capture the form and the color and the shapes and everything. Clive Bell likes. So we had to do this to not be biased. And we even had to write an essay just as a formal analysis. And I got points derived from my essay because but it's impossible.
That's what I'm saying. Like, how can you completely ignore, like, saying that, like, oh, you're gonna be biased if you understand the content. Okay, well, isn't that not kind of the point? Like, the fact that the content is so significant where it'll make you biased or influence how you're thinking about the art piece? Like, is that not art? Like, what?
Exactly. Art is more of an expression, which leads us into the third category. So, art as expression is the definition that says that what's inside the artist's mind is art, and art is a process. And then I'm thinking about functionalism and the Bauhaus, for example, where there isn't really an expression in that art. It's more about the functionality. So that's why for me this definition doesn't fully work either.
Interesting. I mean, even with like functionalism, goodness gracious, I cannot talk right now.
Functionalism.
Is the expression not based on the function, like the functionalism of it? Do you know what I mean?
I see. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how else to like say that other than like.
So let's give specifics. Talking about a chair.
Yeah.
Functional chair. Sofa.
A sofa, yeah. Like if you look, there's a like we're sitting on rolly chairs right now. They have like 5 little wheel things and it's up, and then there's chairs that have 4 legs or 3 legs or 2 legs, and I'm sure somebody's made a one-legged chair or stool. Oh, what's the difference between a chair and a stool? Oh, how does it function? What works better? Like, what do I prefer? That kind of thing. Like, you can think about it so much and you don't realize it, but that is a form of expression, I feel. I don't know.
A functional expression.
A functional expression, yeah.
And you can use a lot of decorative motifs to make it aesthetically pleasing.
Exactly.
And I touched upon a word, the aesthetic, which is important to address when talking about defining art, because it has been assumed for centuries, actually, that aesthetic or beauty makes art. Art, or makes objects art, which gets us into a different debate about art versus non-art things. What are art? What is art? What is not art? If that object is not aesthetically pleasing, can it be art? And then the art and the craft debate, because for centuries craft objects were not considered art, and I think we talked about this last time with the embroidery and stuff like that, that it's art for us, but then it was feminized, first of all, for century.
That's true.
It was considered a woman's activity and thus not art.
Yeah, I rolled my eyes. You can't see me, but I rolled my eyes.
You can feel it.
Yeah.
From our mood. So this term, actually, the aesthetic, was coined in the 18th century, and it was by Art Academy, of course, and it was associated with beauty. So yeah, I'm asking myself, can anti-aesthetic art, like conceptual art, or, I don't know, graffiti that's not very aesthetically pleasing, be considered art?
I mean, yes, because you know what I find very ironic about this? I feel like anti-aesthetic art, it's its own aesthetic.
Yes.
So
the beauty of the ugly, or like the pleasure in the ugly object, or in the sad and tragic.
Yeah.
There's a term for this, but I don't
know it either, but it's interesting how it's its own aesthetic. So like I feel like getting away from the concept that art has to be aesthetic is impossible, because everything has like an aesthetic. Like if we were to label this room right now as an aesthetic, it would be like the radio aesthetic. And also I think currently aesthetics have been a huge trend, especially with like personal style or like home decor or things like that. Like everything has a name, even if it's super, super niche, everything has a name.
Everything has an aesthetic.
Yeah, like an aesthetic name.
An aesthetic name. Yeah. So what about...
Oh, the urinal?
The urinal,
urinal.
Which is very non-aesthetic.
It's very non-aesthetic. I find it very aesthetic because I think it's very like, fuck you. Oh, I keep forgetting I can't swear. In your face kind of thing. Because it just kind of is a question on, as we said, does art need to be beautiful? And like the content of this art is so impactful that it's like so significant, and it's changed how we viewed art at the time, or at least it was challenging how we viewed art at the time. So it's interesting. I think art is art because you make it to be art. Yeah.
Do you think we need to provide a little bit of context about the urinal?
Yeah.
Some factual information, general.
Yeah.
The fact that it was so basically Marcel Duchamp took a urinal and signed it how do you pronounce it? Because I think I know how to pronounce it in Romanian. Armut? Armut?
I have no idea.
So R.MUTT. He signed it like this to preserve his anonymity, and then he submitted this urinal, which he turned upside down. He submitted it for the inaugural exhibition of the Society of Independent Artists, and it was refused, surprisingly. So through this urinal, and it's called Fountain right now, so I knew it as Fountain, you knew it as the urinal.
Yeah.
This happened in 1917, and basically he questioned the necessity of craftsmanship in art and the role of the artist, and this kind of brought about what you, Moon, were talking about, the philosophical debate about the nature of art and its power and its influence, and the debate between aesthetic versus non-aesthetic art versus non-art things. So he kind of criticized the French Academy of the Art.
Yeah.
And is it art because art is what you make it to be? Is it art because it's about the intention?
I don't know. I feel like it's a combination. I don't know. Art is so complicated. Every time I think about it, I'm like, oh God, how do I explain this? Because there's so much to explain. I mean, in this case, I feel like his intention was to say that art is art because it's what you make it to be. So it's kind of like a combination. And as I said before, it kind of like opened up an entire new like category and idea for how art can be expressed, and like what really is art. Again, how do you define it?
Exactly. And the question is Duchamp's Fountain art. Is like the question, is taco a sandwich?
Yeah.
Is it?
It was so funny when we were like talking about this. I say a taco is not a sandwich because a taco is like enclosed on the bottom, and I view a sandwich as two pieces of bread with something in between it. So like a grilled cheese or a sub, or I don't know what other types of sandwiches there are.
For me also, a taco is a cultural dish. It's like a Mexican dish that you actually go with an intention to have a cultural meal.
Yeah.
And then a sandwich is just something you have for lunch, or...
I guess so, but I feel like now food has been so kind of like globalized.
That's true.
But also, I remember we started talking about, I think hot dogs can be considered a taco.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you think a taco cannot be considered a sandwich, but a hot dog can be considered a taco?
Yes.
Please, arguments. Because I disagree.
You disagree? Okay, well, it's because in a hot dog, it's connected. Like, yes, there's two pieces of bread, but you're not supposed to separate them because the hot dog's supposed to rest on that. And so you have the shell, which is the bun, and then your filling, which is just the hot dog. And you can put, like, condiments, which is more of the filling. And so it's a taco.
I see. For me, I remember I told you that a taco is like a crispy, special kind of bread, whereas a hot dog is a smoother bread. But then you asked me, what is bread? Give me the definition of bread.
Yeah, what is bread? Because, like, I consider, like, non-bread, and people call it non-bread, even though non means bread. But, you know, that's a whole nother thing.
See where art leads us to another philosophical debate.
I mean, there is food art.
Yes.
So, like,
oh, what do you think about that?
I love food art. I think it's very interesting. And also the fact that it's food. Like, imagine a performance piece where it's food art and then you eat it afterwards.
Double pleasure.
Exactly. Like, oh, that sounds great.
Yeah.
And I know there's somebody who specifically uses either Skittles or M&Ms or like chocolate or something. They use candy to make art pieces, and when they showcase them, they'll go up to it and they'll take a piece and eat it.
I will show you later. Maybe we can also include it in our Instagram post. So I when I went to Amsterdam last time, There's a lot of candy shops, very nice, weird, cute, colorful candy shops. And there was the representation of a Mona Lisa with candy.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah, and of course you couldn't eat it because it was just there for the, I don't know, decoration of the shop. But it was so pretty. And then I also remember that when I was little, I went to Turkey, to the seaside with my parents, and the hotel, there was like a free buffet, and there were watermelons, flower with like in the shape of flowers, and I don't think you could eat it because it was just there for beauty, aesthetic purposes, but it was so pretty.
Yeah.
Like fruit art and then vegetable art.
Yeah, and like if you think of like charcuterie boards, like that's its own type of art form because there's considered like good and bad charcuterie boards. At least, I don't know, I see a lot of that.
What are those?
It's like the boards that you have like different cheeses and meats and like usually grapes.
Charcuterie.
Yeah.
We have them at Lech.
Yes, we do. We have charcuterie at Lech.
Yeah.
But yeah. Tangent. But anyways,
we have some other case studies that kind of fall in this debate, like the Banksy piece that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about it?
I can sure talk about it. So if you don't know Banksy is a street artist who basically goes all across the world and puts their pieces places, and we don't actually know who Banksy is. Everybody assumes Banksy's a man, so we use he him pronouns for him, but we've literally never we don't know who he is. But one of his most famous pieces is The Girl in the Balloon, and it's this little girl who's in black and white and she's holding a red balloon, and at some point it was being auctioned off to collectors and like museums so they can like put it in their museum. And as it was being auctioned off, when the final like whatever paint person like got it, and it was confirmed that the painting was sold, it was shredded because in the frame Banksy had put a shredder, and then there was most likely somebody in the crowd who was there, and as soon as it was sold, pushed a button and it got shredded. And his point in this is that like we put so much value onto specific names for art that it's like interesting that we do that, considering art can be destroyed, and like it's more you're getting a piece more for the name than you are for the actual piece of art, which I find like is a whole different topic. But funnily enough, it then got auctioned off again, and it was sold for like double the price of it originally. Yeah.
Wow, I'm speechless. That's interesting because when you go and see an exhibition about Banksy, you wouldn't read this type of information, I think.
Yeah.
I went to a museum, a Banksy exhibition in Lisbon. No, not in Lisbon, in Barcelona or in Lisbon. No, I think it was Lisbon. This summer it was absolutely amazing. Of course, none of it was real. It was just recreated, but it was very emotional. And then there were a lot of artworks touching upon the war between Russia and Ukraine, Israel and Palestine.
Yeah.
And I even teared up because it was so emotional. So Banksy is... We should talk about him in another episode. But that was a really, really good point. And the other case studies that kind of go in this debate is, I think everyone knows about them or heard about them. It's the banana piece and the forgotten glasses case. So the banana piece was basically a dude, Maurizio Cattelan. He sold a banana duct tape to a wall at the Art Basel Miami Beach for how much? How much is that?
It said $120,000.
$120,000 in 2019. And then somebody, so a performance artist, a Georgian performance artist, David Datuna, ate the piece. He ate the artwork. Can you imagine? In an intervention called Hungry Artist. So he created another art form out of the presumably artwork that was just a banana
Yeah.
for $120,000.
Which,
people are going crazy.
I mean, I think it's so funny, especially considering how we were talking about like the starving artist like motif and how this kind of relates to that. And it's like poking fun at everything. It just makes me really happy.
Eat a banana and get 120,000. But like, how can the duct tape banana to a wall be considered art? Because I haven't read about it having any concepts, any connotations, any purposes. Like, for me, the artwork might have been the performance of eating the banana, because in that case, I think David the Tuna commented and criticized the fact that the banana had been sold for so much money. But I think we need to research it further.
Yeah, I mean, how I always interpreted it is that the fact that this piece of a banana duct taped to a wall can be sold is either ridiculous or
It is.
is like, okay, again, the whole question, but what is art? Like, why can't this be art? Just like how Deshaun was like, well, why can't this, a urinal, be a fountain? Why can't that be art? So, I don't know. I think it's interesting because I feel like history repeats itself, you know?
It does.
Um,
Yeah, I don't know. We risk, selling our shoes and getting money for that and being
Yeah.
considered artists. And in this case, we shouldn't have any definitions for art. But then if we have definitions for art, then we limit ourselves so much.
yeah.
And then the forgotten glasses, that's also funny because
I love it.
some U.S. teenagers did a prank on a museum, and they left a pair of glasses on the U.S. on the gallery floor of the San Francisco's Museum of Modern Art, and the gallery goers received it as art.
Yeah.
So this kind of speaks about the limits of individual perception. But then if I think of myself when I go to galleries, I feel like everything is so, I don't know, it's like a sanctuary, I'm afraid to
Yeah.
touch stuff. And if I see a pair of glasses on the floor, I would be extra thoughtful and careful of what they are. But then
Yeah.
again, this kind of triggers us to think, what is art? Why do you
Yeah.
think this is art? Because it's in an artistic context.
Yeah.
It's within the art world. Because if we see a pair of glasses on the
Street.
then we
Yeah.
won't think that, right?
Yeah, see, I think that's so interesting because I'm taking a museum studies class right now. And so we were talking about how often in museums there's this whole concept of liminality or being like kind of otherworldly. So when you go into a museum space like that, it just feels like you're like almost higher in a sense, which again goes with the whole like, oh, it's like kind of snobby kind of thing. And also it's kind of a little bit inaccessible to people who aren't aware of art.
It's also very expensive.
Yes.
I had an ICOM card. Have you ever heard of ICOM?
I think so.
So as an art history student, I was able to get it, but then I only got it for a year because now they put the restriction of, so you can't even get it as a master's student. You have to be like a scholar, a professional working in that. And I'm like, dude, that card, it was like 40 euros, I think, per year. But then I could get in so many museums, including Van Gogh, which is 22 euros. And then the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam, which is another 20.
Wow.
20. And of course, they have some discounts for students, but it's expensive.
It is.
And I would pay because I studied and because I'm so curious, but the ordinary human being who has some better stuff to do with their money,
yeah.
so that's sad.
It's interesting. Again, the whole inaccessibility, the whole kind of like social class kind of divide in this. There's, again, a whole nother topic that we could talk about another time. But yeah, I think the Forgotten Glasses are just, I don't know, I love it. And also, this just reminds me of this piece where this artist, I don't know who, was paid like 200 grand or something like that to make a piece for like a museum, and he sent 2 blank canvases and named them Take the Money and Run. And I was like, that is so funny.
there's a movie. It's called Intouchable, The Intouchables. It's a comedy, French comedy. Have you watched it?
I have not.
Please do. It's an amazing French comedy, and it's about, so basically there's I don't want to generalize, but there's a rich person and then a poor one.
Yeah.
And they're friends, so they go to an art gallery, and the rich one wants to buy, so they're friends, the rich one wants to buy a painting, so it's a blank white canvas and some drops of red on the canvas. And in the Russian translation or adaptation of that movie, the other friend asks him, like, do you want to pay so much for some drops of blood from your nose on the watch? So it sounds so funny, you know? But like, he kind of has a point, but then the rich one also has a point. So it depends on your definition and your perception of art, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
And another interesting case study is Piero Manzoni's Artists. 1961, to cut a long story short, Piero Manzoni put his inside some cans, and he filled 90 tin cans with 30 grams of his fecal matter, and labeled it in Italian, English, French, and German, stating artist contents 30 grams. Freshly preserved, produced and tinned in May 1961, and its value was
oh my gosh, I don't remember how much. Oh, it's $124,000 at
Sotheby's. I think. It's an art auction house.
Yeah.
And it was sold in 2007. So yeah, he kind of brought into discussion Karl Marx's idea of commodity fetishism, and also this links to Duchamp's ready-mades. Do you want to talk about it more, or is it like...
I feel like it's so self-explanatory.
With the statement.
Yeah, just based on like everything that we've said. I'm sure you can figure it out.
What do you think? If you have any comments, and if you just comment on our Instagram post and say if you think this is art or not.
Yeah.
And last but not least, let's speak about actually not defining art.
Yeah. So I feel like, there is things that I personally believe are not art because they're so disgusting that, like, how can you say something so exploitative is art?
Like the shit?
Yeah, no, see, I feel like that's different. I feel exploiting other people. So, like, for example, King Louis, I believe it's either the 14th or the 16th.
I think all of them are
honestly,
the same.
It was probably most of them. But he would commission underage girls, like, not even just naked, like in like compromising poses, and you could see like their genitals and stuff. And yes, it was painted, it was created, but it does not make it art in my opinion.
See, Belle Clive would say that because it's a painting, because it has form and shape and color and an aesthetic element to it, because it has the line and the curvature of the body and everything, then it's art. And it's a very complicated topic to talk about because he does have some points, but then here we should address the content. Yeah. And if it's content, it's like, I think it's also about do we divide the artist from his artwork, or do we combine them? Because when we talk about, like, I don't know, musicians, for example, and they're really great musicians, but they're really bad human beings.
Yeah.
So they're accused of different...
Yeah, this topic has always been such an issue for me personally, because I love art, and if I find something that I truly enjoy, but then I find out the person who creates that is a bad person, it's so conflicting, because you would think, oh, they're a bad person, we can't support them, but then you think about how no matter what, if they're famous enough to the point where you know them and a bunch of other people know them, there's always going to be people who support them, and it's just to me, it's just like a whole internalized conflict. Like, I love their music, so what I tend to do is I tend to maybe I tend to not support their art directly.
But you would keep listening to the song, right?
Yes, but not by supporting them directly. I'm not going to say it very obviously, but I won't be supporting them directly.
I see. But also, like, is that really, like, true? Or were they unjustly accused?
I
So
mean,
we should be critical of that as well.
yeah, but most of the time there's like evidence to back up these accusations, and also in a position of power that they are in, it can be very easy to either brush it under the rug or sweep it under the rug, and kind of like use their like position of power to be like, they're just saying this because I'm famous, and not take accountability.
Yeah, they want to put dirt on my reputation. I'm thinking of Michael Jackson.
Yeah, see?
I still, because I like his songs so much, and I feel like, I don't know, it's so complicated.
It's so complicated. It's interesting because there was an interview where they asked him, like, directly, like, you, like, sleep with children? And he was like, I don't sleep with children. I love kids, and kids love me, and yes, they come and I like take care of them or whatever, but I would never do anything so inappropriate, and the fact that, like, what you're implying is disgusting, and I would never do that. So it's interesting. I don't know. I should do more research on it, but I don't know, because I loved Michael Jackson when I was a kid.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's like, I read, we're currently doing a presentation on the play and the movie adaptation Doubt. It's about a Catholic church and a school in Bronx, New York, and it's about a nun accusing the priest of sexual intercourse with a child in that school. And the story ends with doubt, because she can't prove it. And he leaves that school, and he never, like, the reader never knows. Like, it's on your it's your responsibility to decide. And also it's interesting because when actors perform this play, so they meet together and they decide, they have to make a decision if he did it or not.
Right.
And they don't tell anyone. So then they act it out, and then the public also has to decide for. So I feel like everything in life is like that.
Yeah.
You know? We have this doubt all the time.
All the time, yeah. But yeah, I mean, in summary, it's kind of just like, if there is no definition, then can this kind of like grotesque idea of like painting underage people or like doing all these disgusting things be considered art? But then if there is a definition, then will it not limit us in how we express art, you know? But yeah, so as we wrap up our episode, very tense moment, but we will input our interview now, which we're going to be asking, like, how do you define art, or should there be a definition for art? Yeah, but that's it from us. So
don't forget to look at the moon tonight.
Yeah.
So what is art for you?
Art is a form of individual expression. It can be whatever you want.
Art is humanity and expression.
Do you think there needs to be a definition for art, or is it something we make ourselves?
Art actually should not have a definition, because it not having a definition is what allows for creativity.
I think that art is beauty and expression, and I think that it's got multiple forms of aesthetics and rules that go along with those aesthetics.
Do you think non-aesthetic objects can be art?
Depends on the context. Like the specific piece of art.
Can you define beauty?
It would depend on what kind of art we're looking at. Like, for example, in visual art, there's rules with proportions and light shades and so, and then in music, we have our own theories and rules to how to get the best result out of music.
Okay, today it's a waxing crescent, and we're actually going to be able to see the moon together today because it rose at 2:19 p.m. and it sets at 10:34 p.m. So go outside this instant and look for the moon. Hopefully it's visible and it's not cloudy. Yeah.
Also, please send us a question via the comments section and we will answer it in our next episode,
Which is,
a brief history of art.
I believe.
Yeah.
And also, we do now officially have a YouTube and an Instagram.
Do we?
Yes, I created one.
Oh my god.
And I will be posting our episodes on there and more updates. It's called Art After Dark or Dark After Art, because I could not get Art After Dark as a username.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it taken?
Yeah.
But Dark After Art
Yeah.
is even more creative.
I know. But yeah, thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Bye, Leah.
Bye, Moon.
Days fade into a watercolor blur. Memories swim and haunt you, but look into the lake, shimmering like smoke, rises the moon. Oh, close your weary eyes. I promise you that soon the autumn comes to darken fading summer skies. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Days pull you down just like a sinking ship. Floating is getting harder, but tread the water, child, and know that meanwhile rises the moon. Days pull you up just like a daffodil.